Love your fits.
Thanks.
Tell us more.
There's really not much to say about this.
Okay.
It's just a shirt dress.
Yeah.
And it's a part of my collection. Is one of the things that I make.
Okay.
One of the many things that I make.
Is there like a particular print?
This is like the black and white version of kente.
Okay.
You know, if kente from Ghana.
Okay.
Though it's not really an original version, you know. It's like the fabric from Isili.
Okay.
Which are duplicates of the original kente.
Right.
But personally, I try to work with, you know, African fabric. And even though, you know, the ones that we have access to currently are mostly duplicates.
Yes.
So as a young fashion designer, I have to make do with what is available in the market. But in the long run, personally, I'm planning to actually bring the authentic fabrics that are actually original. Because, you know, kente fabric was used by our ancestors to pass secrets from one generation to another.
Wow.
And so even the patterns that are there, it's no coincidence. The patterns that are in the kente.
Right.
Yeah, so, but nowadays, there's so much that has been diluted.
Yeah.
Is when we are working to actually reintroduce and recreate them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's something you've already given me a gem. I had no idea about that. And how did you find yourself learning and, you know, getting so curious about the African fashion history? Where did you get that interest from? How did you get that spark?
First of all, I was born of a mother who is a tailor.
Okay.
So fashion is something that I've always considered to run deep in our family. It's intrinsic. I have uncles who are, you know, sewing people, and my mother was also a sewing person. And so when I was young, I gravitated a lot towards making my own clothes because I did not want to, you know, the normal fashion that everybody wears. In Luo, it's called a Kenya ratego, like it's called Kenya uniform.
Okay.
And I did not want to gravitate towards, you know, the uniformness of everybody else. So when I was young,
you wanted to be different.
Yeah, I wanted to be different, and so I started using my mother's pieces to make my own clothes when I was young, of which some of them were so funny. My friends used to make fun of me a lot. Yeah, but I really loved it. Okay. You know, I loved fashion so much, and the fact that I was smart as well. I did not know whether it was something that I was going to pursue because, you know, coming from an African home, if you're smart, you're supposed to be a doctor.
Science.
Yeah.
Law. Business.
Yes. And so personally, I did fashion for fun ever since I was young.
Okay.
But then growing up, I realized that I did not want to do anything else.
But you know, you're actually a microbiologist. You've done microbiology and biotechnology.
Yeah.
So have I. Yes, I have. So when I read that about you, I was like, okay, we have something in common. I love
did not know. Yeah.
So the people who are very smart, they always end up doing microbiology. You can say that. True.
Because microbiology is so, it's not a walk in the park.
It is not easy. It is very difficult.
Yeah.
But then again, I think there's something that you can pick out from it because you have to pay attention to details.
Yes.
You have to know a lot. You have to research. And I feel like fashion is also very similar.
Yes. And actually, fun fact is that after I studied so much of African history, I realized that in the past, it was the doctors that were the tailors. Because, you know, doctors actually, when you look at the tool of a surgeon, you realize those are the same tools that you use as a tailor. Yeah. So in the past, like the being a doctor and being a tailor were together. They were intertwined.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lovely. Again, stuff that I'm learning from you.
Yeah.
Tell us, you know, your TikTok has just been going viral. You have over 1 million followers.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, girl, give me some tips and tricks. I'd love to know. How did you end up posting the kind of content that you do, you know, about our African history, about, you know, where fashion originated from? Like, how did you start educating people?
I would say I've always been an educator from when I was young. I always took that role. I was always teaching my friends, you know, even during chores, I was always at the forefront teaching. But then when it comes to African history, the way I started it on TikTok, I've been talking about African history since I can remember. Like history, even in high school, history was my favorite subject.
Yeah.
I got B+ in history, and I can't believe it. Like it was the only thing I got a B in, and I remember doing my KCSE and history paper. I did it, and it was perfect. You know, I knew that was an A.
Yeah.
I knew that was an A, and then when the results came back, it was a.
Okay.
I even got higher marks in mathematics than history.
Okay.
I was shocked, and I've always loved history. You know, I've always gravitated towards it. I talked about it with my grandmother because I always wondered where we came from. As a people.
Yeah.
I used to ask my grandmother when I was young that, you know, where is the rest of you?
Yeah.
You know, that is where the question started from. I did not see my grandmother's grandmother.
Okay.
You know, I couldn't see them. And so my grandmother started saying that, you know, there was a time that certain people were here.
Yeah.
They're the ones who were running things. And so that is when I started, you know, questioning, like, who are these people? When I was very young, I was a little girl, I started questioning who these people were. And so when I went to high school, I actually found a source. You know, they were teaching about pre-colonial period,
right,
post-colonial period. They taught about Adolf. They taught about King Leopold of Belgium. So, but they were not teaching it, you know, with the depth that I wanted. There was just something missing. So when I cleared high school, I started digging for myself just for the fun of it, you know.
Okay.
And so when I was studying microbiology in the University of Nairobi, some lecturers started, you know, mentioning certain things. Juju too.
Yeah.
So that is when I started, again, I was always just curious about it. It's like being curious of color red.
Right.
When you start being curious of color red today, you'll realize that there are so many shades of red.
100%.
There are so many textures of red.
Yeah.
And so that is how I got into history until I met a certain book called The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. That was the game changer for me. That is when I realized that, so there's actually a history of us, you know. There's actually our ancestors were just not slaves, you know, because growing up I thought our story started with slavery.
Right.
But then when I read The Destruction of Black Civilization, I realized our history did not start with slavery. I realized we came from a people who were some of the people who walked this planet, the first people to walk this planet. We came from some of the first people to start agriculture, some of the first people to start architecture, engineering, mathematics.
Yes.
It was mind-blowing.
Okay,
and so,
interesting.
after I saw all that, I realized that I also come from this, and this is the reason why my truth was contradictory, because the world that I was raised in, it painted black people as inferior for the longest time. For the longest time, I thought black people were inferior, but I did not want to accept it because to me, in my soul, I'd never felt inferior.
Yes, 100%.
I never felt inferior. And so after finding this out and finding out that actually the type of people I came from,
you wanted to tell others to feel the same way.
Because it changed me. It changed me.
Okay.
It changed my mentality. It changed my work. It changed how I show up as a person.
Right.
And so I wanted other people to change as well.
Okay, to feel the same way.
Yeah, to feel the same way. And so that is why I started talking about it on TikTok. And guess what? There were so many people ready.
Who actually wanted to listen.
Yeah.
Wanted to learn. As well. Lovely.
Yeah.
Now tell us about your collection. Tell us about, you know, a few things that you do as a fashion designer, as a tailor. You know, your prints. Like, what would you want a Swiry Nyar Kano collection to look like?
First of all, I'm here. I believe that I'm here to reintroduce my ancestors.
Okay.
I'm here to reimagine my ancestors. Because when I study the African fashion, one thing that I realized is that Africans did not just wear clothes for the sake of wearing clothes.
Yeah.
When you compare the European metamorphosis of fashion and then you compare it with the African, you know, you realize that they stem off differently.
Okay.
You know, when you look at the European stuff like sneakers,
Yes.
polo,
Yes.
all these things came from sports. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of their stuff came from sports, and so that is what people are wearing today. But then when you look at the African fashion, the way it was going before the destruction, you realize that in the past, when you would look at a child from the Himba tribe, just from what they were wearing, you would tell their age, you would tell the village where they come from, you would tell whose child they are, their status in their society. Like, it was, clothes were identity.
Okay.
You know, it was an identity thing. And so that is actually what I'm working towards. Personally, as a fashion designer, I'm working to reintroduce my African fashion in a way that I want to see how it would have morphed if there was no colonial interference.
Do you think we have a Kenyan, a Kenyan fashion?
Yeah.
Do you think that as Kenyans we have a very descriptive, sense of style, the kind of prints we wear? Because as you said, in Ghana we have a print. When we go to Nigeria, you have a print. The South Africans have their own print. What is the Kenyan print?
Well, let me tell you, first of all, when you talk about it in Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, whatever, these are the borders were introduced in 1884 by the Berlin Conference. Prior to that, there was nothing like Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, South Africa. We had the Niloids and the Bantus.
Yes.
You understand? And so in Kenya, when you come to Kenya, like when you want to look at the Kenyan print, look at the Maasai prints, and then look at the Pokot, Look at the Niloids, the River Lake Niloids. Look at the Agikuyu brown. You understand? Like when you want to look at the Kenyan identity, don't look at it Kenya.
Yeah.
Look at it from the tribes, okay?
Yes.
Like for
tribes.
example, when you look at Luo, you realize that we are in Uganda, Tanzania, we are in Ethiopia, we are in Somalia. So when these are the things that we still have, our identities despite the borders.
Right.
And these identities are, in the language groups. You understand?
Yes.
And so you realize that even Ghana, there are some Kenyans who can relate to the Ghanaian tradition because we expanded throughout Africa. And so when you remove the borders that were introduced, you know how the Berlin Conference came about, So when you remove the borders that were introduced for us, then that is when you remain with actually our authentic traditions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we are scattered all over.
Yeah.
But then we can actually come back together again and knit Africa back to the way it was.
So what is your collection? What does it consist of? That's what
my collection consists of, first of all, when we talk about Nyar Kano, it is a line that is currently very tiny, like it's a little girl that is in the process of growing, and her growth is in the African print.
Yes.
We have different African prints that are authentic to us, that have shapes that tell stories of the African people. And so these are the things that I want to bring back as a brand. Okay, I'm here to reintroduce the ancient fashion, and I'm starting to do it with the little girls. My brand is going to grow with little girls as it goes up. You understand?
Yeah.
So my brand is currently very young. We are in the process of remodeling it to actually make the little girls to feel, their ancestry, and also I just want the little girls now to feel what I wanted to feel when I was little.
You were younger.
Yeah, and I want to grow with them.
Yeah.
To a point where when they are 24, then my brand will be 24 as well.
Okay.
Yeah, you understand? It's something like that.
I love that. It's beautiful because, as you said, that you want them to feel how you would have, wanted to feel as a young girl.
Yeah.
And now that you're aware, now that you're woke, now that you are very well educated, and of course you're able to also tell others about your ancestry, about your history, about the traditions from back in the day, about fashion. It's just beautiful to know that you want to pass on that information to others as well. So as we speak right now, if I wanted to come and buy something of your line, how would I do that?
First of all, right now, I don't have ready to wear.
Okay, so you'd have to pre-order.
Yeah, I do. I work with private clients.
Okay.
Of which you come to me, I take your measurements. Because right now, I do mostly occasional stuff like birthdays, shoots, whatever. I do big stuff, big gowns, special day occasions and stuff. So currently, that is what I do, because I also want to put meaning. I love it when I put meaning to every piece that I put out.
Yeah.
So I don't really want to make like just things and pour them into the market. Currently, I'm just working with as I do research, because we are also in the process of, we are reading a lot of books.
Yeah.
We are doing a lot of research. And we are currently in the process of creating this brand, and so I'm working with individuals to create.
Lovely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out here who don't really know about how you ended up in fashion. You said that you were very curious as a young girl, because your mom as well was a tailor. But like, when you took that step, how old were you, and you decided to leave microbiology and just venture into fashion? So how was that transition for you? How did your family take it?
It was first of all, I always knew I wanted to do fashion.
Yeah.
At somewhere at the back of my mind. But then I had to finish my degree, I
thought that was a condition from your parents.
Yeah. It was a condition from my father.
I know, you're very well learned. It's all about education. And it's all about degrees.
Yes. So I told my dad that I'm going to finish.
Yeah.
I'm going to finish this degree, but then after I'm done with it, I'm going to give it to you because it's yours. And then after that, I'm going to do what I want. And you're going to support me or not. Okay. You understand? I gave him the ultimatum of supporting me or not, but I told him I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah.
And his response was, I will never forget. He said, "Oh, so unataka tu kuacha udaktari uende jua kali industry."
Oh, no.
And I told him, yeah, and I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure of how I was going to do it. It was tough.
Yeah.
There were times I couldn't even pay my rent. Yeah. It wasn't easy. I wouldn't tell anybody that it was an easy transition.
Yeah.
It was like taking a leap of faith. It was a jump.
Was it worth it?
Yeah, my God, I would do it again. It was amazing. Totally worth it for me. And yeah, it was difficult, but totally worth it. I would do it again. I would do it again and again.
I love it.
Yeah.
What message do you have for, young girls out there who want to venture into fashion and they don't really know how to get into it, and especially those who really are curious and interested in knowing more about the African fashion and the history of Africa in terms of prints and the color and just things that we are known to and things that is Africa's identity?
Yeah. What I would advise them to do is don't get into fashion because you want to, because of the luxury or the style. You see people posting like, oh, yeah. It's not like, get into fashion because it is in your heart.
Okay.
Get into fashion because you're 100% sure it is what you want to do. Because trust me, the things you see people posting, it is 0.1% of the process.
Yeah.
Fashion requires you to sit on the machine and watch a cloth come from fabric, raw fabric, to life. If you don't have the patience to watch something come from nothing to actually something, don't even try it, because that process of watching something come from nothing to something, that is where the sweat is.
Okay.
That is where the sweat is at. And if you are not, if you're not patient with that process, then don't. If you're just interested in the final product, you'll be frustrated for no reason.
Yeah.
So only get into fashion if you're ready to be patient. It's like being a midwife.
Yeah.
You have to be patient with a kid. you know, you have to watch the kid come out.
Yeah.
You can't, the kid just doesn't come out and look nicely. Yeah.
And lastly, where do you see yourself? Where do you see Swiry Nyar Kano as a brand in the next few years?
Oh my God, I see myself in worldwide. I wouldn't say, like, right now the biggest thing that people would think of is Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
I see myself beyond Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like, I see myself back to Africa. You see the New York Fashion Week?
Yes.
I see myself back to Sudan Fashion Week.
Okay.
You know, I want to create
Bringing it
back home. You know, if you can't take the princess to the river, then we are going to bring the river to the princess. Because personally, I believe that, you know, when you see South Sudan, the models are
so beautiful.
You know, are beautiful, and they are mostly from South Sudan.
Yeah.
South Sudanese are very iconic, and that is where my ancestors also come from. So my dream is to bring New York Fashion Week to South Sudan Fashion Week and actually have some of the best runways in Africa.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I hope that actually does happen one day. Good luck.
Yes, thank you.
I hope that all your dreams come true, and you know, you keep doing what you're doing. And just inspiring the newer generations to come when it comes to fashion, and just owning the fact that, you know, you are African, and Africa is the future.
Yes.
If not the present.
Yes.
People say it is
and
the present.
And it is the past.
And it's the past. So just, you know, be able to be comfortable and happy and proud of your identity. So thank you so much. I've learned quite a bit from you, and I'm glad that you actually came on the show. I really enjoyed this conversation, and we hope to see you continue doing big things in future.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and that was the end of our conversation right here in studio at KBC Channel 1. We'll do this again next week, same time, same place. But for now, don't go too far, because we've still got some more entertainment for you. Cole Jacks on the decks with great music as usual. That's it from me, Shiksha Arora, signing out. Good night.